Hello, everyone. Welcome to MD Media's special show today on Friday, July the 7th, 2023. Today, we'll be talking about Tigray, state of peace and war. I'm delighted to be joined by Mercy Ekidane, who is a political commentator and also active in social movements for liberty and independence in Tigray. Mercy, welcome to MD Media.
Thank you, Getachew. I'm happy to be here with UMD Media and HBS.
Great. So we are live online, and we will be also broadcasted to the Horn of Africa on satellite under HBS Horn Broadcasting Services. So the topic today is Tigray, state of peace and war. We put peace and war in quotation because there are people who are asking since November 3rd, the signing of the Pretoria Agreement or peace deal, there are people who are asking if really peace is taking root in Tigray. And there are also who fear that there may be a risk for another round of war if and when the international community is not acting at the right time, the right way. So Mercier would be here to highlight on this. So Mercier, let's start with what you're reading of where Tigray is since November 3rd, 2022, the signing of the Pretoria Agreement. And if we count it right, I think it's 8 months and a week since that day of November 3rd, 2022. So what's your reading? What's happening in Tigray?
Well, thank you, Getachew. I think this is a very relevant issue that we need to discuss because the people of Tigray are still suffering and are getting farther and farther from the state of peace as the days go. Since the signing of it's not a peace deal, I call it, well, its name is cessation of hostilities between the two warring parties. Um, since the signing of that cessation of hostilities agreement, there are some developments that indicated first there might be a chance for peace, but the situation on the ground today, especially within Tigray, shows that the people of Tigray are far from enjoying peaceful life, and the state of peace is not is getting farther and farther as the days go. To mention some of the reasons I'm saying that, one, about a quarter of the people of Tigray are displaced from their homes, home cities, hometowns, and the places they live in. All of them are still displaced. Like majority of them are still in camps, IDP centers, internally displaced people centers, and they have not returned to their homes. That is one. The second is about a quarter of the land of the region of Tigray and also the people in it are still under the occupation of the military forces that occupied them from outside, whether it's from the Amhara region or from the Eritrean government. And those people are still languishing through the brutal treatment of those forces. People are still being killed. Actually, there's a recent news that was released, I believe, by Washington Post, that showed, based on a satellite picture conducted, a study conducted based on a satellite picture, there are still fresh graves in Tigray that are being used for putting bodies of numerous people at the same time, mass graves. So these are pictures of mass graves, fresh mass graves after the signing of the cessation of hostilities. So for the people of Tigray, peace is getting farther and farther. So this is creating a lot of frustration amongst the grants, and there are some voices that are saying if we cannot get peace through this agreement, then we need to find other ways. We have to get it either by hook or by crook. So if we have to use force, then we have to use force, because we cannot let our people languish in such a situation where they are being killed in hundreds every day in the western part of Tigray, in the southern part of Tigray, and which are occupied by the Amhara forces, and also in the northern part of Tigray, which are occupied by the Eritrean forces. So I think the frustration is growing as peace is distancing away. And I'm afraid the people of Tigray will have to find other means to save their people from such a desperate situation. And to mention another thing, even those people that are that are not occupied by external forces, they are still blocked from transportation, terrestrial transportation, and even aerial or through airplanes and airports. Even that is very limited by the federal government. Financial flow is curtailed. Government workers are not getting their salaries. The overall economic situation is dire. The social situation is dire. The political situation is also dire. So overall, the people of Tigray, the frustration within the people is growing, and I'm afraid this might lead to another intensified conflict and maybe war.
With that background, what is the interim regional administration IRA led by Getachew Reda saying and doing? Because there were hopes that at least the IDPs would be returned back to their homesteads in Western Tigray and other places before the start of the rainy season. And Getachew was here on Yemidi Media to also say that, and including his vice president. So, what is your reading of how the IRA is reacting to this?
So the interim regional administration, it's been about a little bit more than 100 days since it was established. Considering the difficult situation and the fragmentation that was happening post-war in Tigray and also overall in Ethiopia, what the interim regional administration could do was limited. I believe the IRA has done what is expected from each side based on from the Pretoria Agreement. The disarming of the Tigray Defense Forces is being done as per specified, as per the Pretoria Agreement specification. But the response is not happening from the federal government side. For example, the disarmament was supposed to happen in concurrently with the removal of external forces from the region of Tigray. Now, the Tigray Defense Forces are disarming, but the external forces from Amhara region and also from Eritrea are not leaving the occupied Tigrayan territories. So this is a very difficult situation. Overall, the IRA has many responsibilities other than this, which is establishing security and stability within Tigray. And there's a lot of challenge there because this is a post-war nation or state. And there are a lot of challenges. Considering the internal and external challenges, the IRA is struggling, and it's going to need a lot of support from everyone, whether it's international partners, the federal government itself, or forces within Tigray. But the most important thing is the livelihood of the people, and just the fact that people are dying on a daily basis out of hunger, out of lack of medical supplies, and mass murdered by forces that are occupying Tigrayan territories. So this should not be the IRS responsibility. This should be the responsibility of every human being to prevent such brutal mass killings, and also the death of people due to hunger and also lack of medical supplies. And the international community needs to act quickly. I would like to put a contrast so that people who are listening understand the magnitude of the problem that we have. The most talked about conflict in the world today is the Russia-Ukraine war. Based on the highest estimate by the U.S., the maximum number of people that died or lives lost in that war is about 40,000. The UN puts it in the 15,000 people languished in that war. It's a very sad situation. Compare that to the lives that are lost in the Tigray war. It's more than 1 million people. It's more than 1 million people. It's not even comparable. It's not even comparable. And letting that continue today is very irresponsible for the international community. I am very disappointed by the news that the United States has decided to remove the humanitarian accusation on the Ethiopian government. That is a very disappointing news. The human rights violation designation that the U.S. lifted on the Ethiopian government. This is happening while hundreds of people are being killed, purposefully killed, brutally murdered to take their land. This is being done by militia forces from Amhara and the Eritrean forces that are occupying western Tigray, southern Tigray, and some parts of northern Tigray. So this is very disappointing. The people of Tigray were hoping the guarantors, well, they may not be guarantors. Those parties that participated in the signing of the Pretoria Agreement would act to encourage the Ethiopian government to uphold the Pretoria Agreement. But what we are seeing is they are being lenient and complacent to the continued brutality on the people of Tigray, the continued acts of war crime and genocide on the people of Tigray. This is very disappointing.
Yeah, one of the points that I want to also trace is the how the international community is reading it. So, in your view, is it because they are misreading and misunderstanding what's happening and what has happened so far, or is it because they are balancing between? I talked to the H panel panelists on Sunday, so there was a reading of the U.S. is responding to what Russia, China, and other forces might do in the Horn of Africa. So they are not just ignoring out of lack of knowledge, but just because they have to balance geopolitics and so on. So, what's your assessment of what's happening in terms of Washington and Brussels reading Addis Ababa?
So I understand that the U.S. has its geopolitical, economical, and other interests in the Horn of Africa. And in today's global dynamics, Russia, China, and some of the economic contenders like the BRICS bloc, they are trying to pose some threat on U.S. interests, and the United States has to defend that and find partners. Not only the United States and the Western countries need to defend their interests and partner with some states and other actors in the Horn of Africa. Where I see a failure in this policy, in the policy of Biden's administration in the Horn of Africa, is identifying the right partners. Ethiopia is an old empire with so many nations within it and so many interest groups and actors. I think the US needs to really understand the dynamics within the Ethiopian empire or the Ethiopian Federation and identify the right partners to work with. The today's federal government is weak uh, and not reliable, and to be frank, not formidable, not too and not trustable. Uh, so the U.S. needs to find the right partner, and I believe Tigrayan forces could be a good partner for the United States. And I think that's where the U.S. is missing in terms of the U.S. and European Union countries. If they need to, if they need a stable Horn of Africa, and where democracy prevails, I think they need to find the right partners. The Eritrean government is flirting with Russia, China, and other BRIC countries. Overall, the Eritrean government is not entrenched within its people. Uh, uh, the right strategy would be to get rid of the current Eritrean government or the dictator, and establish a better democratic government that's friendly to democratic and liberal thinking, liberal thoughts and systems. So in that aspect, geopolitically, I think the United States and European countries need to find the right partner in there. And I don't think the current regime or Abiy's administration is a partner to work with. I think they can find a good partner in Tigray, and they really need to look into that first, out of morality and responsibility to save the people of Tigray from the genocide that they are facing. Second, the Tigrayan forces have shown that they can be trusted and that are formidable forces to work with.
Hmm. Speaking about Eritrea, I had an opportunity to speak to Yosef Gabrehot, who is one of the organizers for an upcoming symposium next week, July 14th to 16th, a 3-day symposium in Washington, D.C. That will be the answering the question of why do we need regime change in Eritrea now. Yosef Gabrehot is a renowned Eritrean thinker, writer, now leading this movement called Seedling for Peace and Democracy in Eritrea, or FALSI in Tigrinya. They are organizing a 3-day symposium with a number of speakers, international, national Eritrean, and among others, they will be talking about as well Eritrea's role in Tigray, in the Tigray genocide. So those who want to participate, join, attend the symposium. It will be on July 14th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it will be at the 620 Michigan Avenue Northeast, Washington, D.C., 20064. That is 220, 620, I mean, Michigan Avenue Northeast, Washington, D.C., 20064. That will be from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. for 3 days. Um, Mercy, in terms of what should be done and by whom, you alluded to that to some extent, but if in terms of the war, there are people, especially in Magale area, there they saw repeated bombing of think for at least 2, 3 days the past week, and there is no clue, or at least as far as
Your voice is breaking down a little bit.
I'm concerned, I don't know whose fighter jets were flying over the skies of Magala late, after midnight and so on. So, do you fear that there could be a situation where Tigray could be again a ground for a war?
Obviously, war is looming around there. Well, war is going on. Well, another battleground fighting might start. The war, based on my understanding, the Pretoria Agreement was cessation of hostilities, but the war continues. The Eritrean soldiers continue to occupy Tigrayan lands. The Amhara forces continue to occupy Tigrayan lands, and also they are brutally mass murdering people. So the war is continuing in multi-dimensional fronts. This is from a land occupation perspective, but also economically, there's a lot of sabotage being done on Tigray by all the forces that were fighting against it. There are social and propaganda war that's going on. So I don't believe the war has stopped. What I'm concerned is the war might restart, or the fight might restart with even more magnitude and intensity, because a lot of international forces are being involved at this time. As you know, the Eritrean president, Isaias Afwerki, has been touring to find partners, to feed his war machinery from financial perspectives. The President Isaias Afwerki can only survive as Eritrean president only by fueling conflicts in the Horn of Africa. And that policy has been a problem for Sudan, for Ethiopia, for Djibouti, and Somalia, and Sudan and South Sudan. I think he's continuing that policy. He has been mobilizing soldiers and reserve soldiers recently. It looks like he's preparing for another round of fighting. The war has not stopped. It's the fighting that may reignite and continue. But at this time, it might be intensified. That's one source of war, President Isaias's lack of appetite for stability. The other is his counterpart, Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia, is also very ambitious, and he might have some ambitions in the Horn of Africa. He might want to restructure, reconfigure the Horn of Africa. So with that, with those ambitions, he might be waging war. That's the second potential source of conflict or cause of conflict. The third one is, as I mentioned earlier, the people of Tigray are put in a very cornered in a difficult situation. It's like either die or find your way out. That's what we feel as Tigrayans today. We either die silently or find our way out. If the international community does not push the Ethiopian government to uphold what it signed in the Pretoria Agreement, we Tigrayans will have to find a way out. We cannot die silently. We cannot let our people in the Western Tigray, which is occupied by Amhara forces, mass murdered on a daily basis. And had it not been about 1.2 million people displaced now out of there, by now, based on their calculation, the Amhara forces calculation, they have wiped out all Tigrayans from Western Tigray. That's what they are hoping to do, and change the demography of that area. And it's very sad that the international community is allowing this to happen in their watch, allowing some regional forces to change the demography of an area in the 21st century. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. It's not about 100 or 20 people. well, the numbers don't matter anyway, it's human lives. But regardless, how is the US, the EU, the UN, African Union, how are they allowing this? The changing of a demography of that area by exterminating hundreds of thousands of people. So they have to push the Ethiopian government to immediately return the occupied lands and to immediately return the internally displaced people within Tigray. So if that doesn't happen, the people of Tigray, we will have to find our way out. And we have done it before, and we might have to do it again. We know that we have laid our arms, but again, we got to find another way to get them back. So this expectation that the people of Tigray will die silently is, I think, far-fetched. I think we have to find our way out if things continue this way.
So Blinken, 2 years ago, actually more than 2 years ago, March 10, 2021, as reported by CNN, said acts of ethnic cleansing committed in Western Tigray. This is the same leader that is part of a government, the Biden administration, that just lifted, as mentioned earlier, the human rights violation designation as reported by the foreign policy. Interesting enough, the foreign policy, when it disclosed this, it says the Biden administration informed Congress about this lifting quietly. So Addis Ababa, the leaders of Ethiopia heard about this as anybody else from the news. So uh, what is interesting is this happening amid a lot of crisis. I mean, we mentioned now about IDPs, the fishing massacres, and so on. This is a journalist I spoke to the other day. She's a Spanish journalist. In May, she had the opportunity to go to Tigray. So she visited Maqala, Abiy Adi, Adwa, and other places as well. So just 2 days ago, she was tweeting this, the hunger queues. Every day at around 9 a.m., hundreds of women, babies, and children stand in the hunger queues outside the Don Bosco Education and Humanitarian Aid Center in the city of Adwa. So she's talking about people waiting to get something in cities like Adwa and so on. So in my interview with her, she was uh, dumbfounded by the fact that the international community is ignoring all these. Actually, even the media, she had to go by herself and her colleague after trying to, because she's a photojournalist and she wanted to work for a media on assignment basis and going to try to cover the crisis after the peace agreement, quote unquote. But she couldn't find any media interested in that because they were saying this doesn't sell. This is a story that doesn't sell. So she had to go by herself. And if you missed that, please watch my interview with her and the image to put there. So, Mercy, on the way of finishing this show today, I just want to get your assessment of the other political actors, social movement, and so on in Tigray. It's not only the TPLF, which is the party to the agreement in Pretoria. There are a number of political organizations, including the Tigray Independent Party, and we have South, the Salsa Wayana Tigray Party. We have Baitona, the Greater Tigray Party. And we have also movements like the one you are part of, the Solidarity of Tigray for Liberty and Independence. So, what's happening in terms of that, in terms of advocacy, in terms of reaching out to international actors, domestic and regional actors?
So in general, all these organizations that you mentioned, along with the people of Tigray, were hopeful that the cessation of hostilities signed in Pretoria would bring about, uh, you know, peace and normality to the people of Tigray. What we are witnessing is that the federal government and the other forces involved in this war are not willing to give peace a chance. So they are forcing us to look for other ways. I have connection with the political parties that you mentioned. Actually, I am chairman of Solidarity of the Grants for Independence and Liberty. We aspire to see an independent state of Tigray. Uh, we believe that genocide has been committed on the people of Tigray, and the people of Tigray will have to exercise their self-determination and form their own nation state. Uh, and we believe that's the only way out of this long, so many years of conflict. By the way, this war is just a continuation of so many years of civil wars that have been happening in the Ethiopian Empire and in the Ethiopian Federation. So, with that said, as Solidarity of Tigrans, we have connections with, we work with national political parties like that of Tigray Independence Party, which is clearly aspiring for an independent state of Tigray, the Salsa Wayana Tigray, and Baitona. All these three political parties have clearly indicated that they are aspiring an independent state of Tigray. So we work closely with them. At this time, all of us have been hoping for, a lasting peace. But the way things are going, the federal government does not seem to be committed to enforcing the constitutional order and returning the constitutional territories of Tigray, and also allowing the return of internally displaced people. So we have been discussing, all of us seem to be thinking about, we have to find our own way out. And in general, this is a reflection of what's prevailing in Tigray people's minds and hearts. We do not, we there's no other, as I mentioned earlier, the Tigray war, the Tigray genocide, is where the highest number of lives died in the 21st century. More than about 1.2 million lives languished in this war. This is unprecedented in terms of 21st century wars. The worst conflict after Tigray genocide or Tigray war is the Syrian war, which consumed about 500,000 lives. So it's double the lives that are lost in the Syrian war that we lost in the Tigray war. So we are still hoping for peace. We do not want to return to war, but the federal government and those forces that could encourage or force the federal government to commit to what it signed in the Pretoria Agreement are being reluctant and complacent to what the federal government is doing, and also the Amhara forces, which are the most brutal in trying to cleanse the Western Tigray and Southern Tigray out of Tigrayan bloods, Tigrayan people. So we cannot let this continue. You mentioned one of the foreign observers that went to Tigray observed that every single morning, thousands of moms with their babies in their bags line up to get their breakfast, to get one meal a day. How can a Tigrayan, any Tigrayan, would be willing or consider this a peace when hundreds of millions of Tigrayan mothers are lining up to get one meal a day? We are uh, accepting this in hope that there will be peace. This is not peace. This is ethnic cleansing. This is silent ethnic cleansing. that's happening on the people of Tigray today. And this cannot continue like this. We hope the federal government, and most importantly, the United States, the European Union, the United Nations, and African Union, as being observers in the Pretoria Agreement, will do everything in their power to change this, to return all constitutional Tigrayan territories and return the internally displaced people to their homes, and then let the people of Tigray live in peace. We hope that happens. But as days go, we are seeing mothers die with their babies in their hands. We are seeing fathers commit suicide because they don't have anything to feed their children. This cannot continue like this. This cannot continue like this. We do not want to find other means, but we will have to if things continue like this.
Yeah, that's important to underline. And I think with that, we'll end today's show. We have been covering a lot of what's happening with a number of people, including with Joseph Garrett, like I mentioned. At the center of or part of their symposium would be Eritrea's role in Tigray genocide. That still continues. And please watch that interview with Joseph Garrett I did on Wednesday.
Getachew, if you allow me, I have a couple of recommendations that you're asking, and I was gonna put some recommendations or ways out of this. I completely agree with Mr. Yosef Gebrehot and his organization, Seedling for Peace, what they are calling for, which is a regime change in Eritrea. The source of most of the conflicts in the Horn of Africa is this regime, whose existence depends on conflicts within the Horn of Africa. So, the United States should uh, review its policy in the Horn of Africa and consider seriously the regime change in Eritrea and helping organizations like Seedling for Peace, people like Mr. Yosef, and us, and find the right partner within Ethiopia, which I believe should be the Tigrayan forces, to bring stability in that area and bring change in Eritrea, not only for Tigray, but also for the people of Eritrea. Eritreans are trying to, as you know, Eritrea being one of the smallest nations in Africa, has been the highest contributor to the refugees in Europe and in the US. So if world organizations, including the EU and the USA, need to change that, I think they need to solve this from the source, which is a regime change in Eritrea. And they need to save the people of Eritrea from such a brutal regime. So we have to collaborate. All of us will have to collaborate on this. The US really needs to consider this and find the right partner within Ethiopia. And that partner, I believe, should be the Tigrayan forces. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. And this clip that you were watching on the background was from the CNN's reporting from March 2021, when Blinken said ethnic cleansing had happened in Western Tigray. With that, we will end our today's show. We are live online. We will also broadcast this content to the Horn of Africa under HBS Horn Broadcasting Services. Thank you for your time, Mercier, and we will hopefully have another opportunity to talk about issues in Tigray and in the Horn of Africa in general. And thank you for your time. Good night. Those who are following us online, please share, subscribe, like, so that YouTube can use its algorithms as well to spread it out, so that's where we get more viewers. And on Sunday, we'll be back with the H panel. The H panel will be back at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, as usual, on Sunday, that is July 19th. Have a good one. Bye.